Hey guys, welcome to the Breezy Boys podcast. I'm Nick,
And I'm Dominic.
and today we'll be talking about whether players in sports deserve their MVP or not. Nick, before we get into the main topic, I want to play a little game. So you give me your top four of the East, and I'll give you my top four of the East, and we'll do the same for the West. So how about you start?
I think that the undoubtedly number one, if this team stays healthy, I think it is the Bucks. I think number two, if they can stay healthy, will be the Brooklyn Nets. I think number three will be the 76ers, and I think number four will be the Boston Celtics.
Okay, so my list obviously does kind of differ from yours a little bit. My number one is also the Bucks because I feel like their roster runs really deep with Giannis and Chris Middleton.
Also Drew Holiday, who I think is the best perimeter defender in the league.
Yeah. I got Heat going second seed because I feel like the Heat also have a very deep roster. I mean, their roster goes into the bench. I mean, I feel like the bench can play as well as the starters. And 3 and 4 obviously when you're tied. I'm gonna say the Celtics and the Cavs can go interchangeably 3 and 4. I feel like the Cavs obviously have a really good roster coming up with Donovan Mitchell and all the other players that they have. And the Celtics obviously have a young roster like Jason Tatum.
Something to prove.
Yeah.
I have to disagree with you on the Heat one, only because I don't think that the Heat's bench is that good. I think that Jimmy Butler's 32 years old. I think he's at the end of his prime. I don't think he can produce as what people think he can. They were a shot away from the finals, and I don't think that they didn't add anything to the team, and I don't think that they're better than Milwaukee, and I don't think that they're better than Brooklyn, and I don't think that they're better than the Sixers. I just don't think that they have enough to go deep and win it all, and I don't think that they have enough to rank top three, in my opinion. Okay. And I think that, Tyler Hero's coming off the sixth man of the year. He averaged 22 a game, which I think is fairly impressive for coming off the bench, but I think that Kyle Lowry's 36 now. We don't know what he's going to bring to the table. He's very injury prone, as we saw last year in the playoffs. I just don't know if that Heat team can hold up and be that second seed that you think that they're going to be.
I mean, yeah, we can obviously disagree on some things, but let's go into the Western Conference. I mean, give me your top four. What do you think?
Obviously, I think that the Clippers, if they can stay healthy, that they will be one with John Wall. I think that they have PG now. They have Kawhi back. And we can't forget that last year they didn't have either of those three players, which I think will average the most points. And they didn't have either of the three of them, and they were finished 8th last year with Reggie Jackson, Nicholas Batum. And I think that they still have those players, so I think that they will finish first. I think that the second team will be the Golden State Warriors. They just won an NBA championship. Still have their core: Jordan Poole, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. And I think third will definitely be the Dallas Mavericks, only because they have Luka, they have...
I can agree on I think the Golden State Warriors are going to go number one this year instead of the LA Clippers. I feel like the LA Clippers are just... Their players are just too injury prone. I feel like, the Claw's obviously going to perform this year because, he's Kawhi Leonard,
Right.
But I just feel like Paul George is too injury prone. He's probably going to make a comeback season, but, I don't think he's going to be as good as he was back then. But, going into it, the Golden State Warriors are off their comeback season. Klay is back. Klay was performing like he was back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I feel like the third seed would obviously be the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic obviously performing phenomenal in the postseason, kind of making a fool of the Suns. Yeah.
As a Suns fan, it hurts to say that, but yeah, he did. Honestly, I wouldn't be mad if you would say that Denver was number 3 because they do have Jamal Murray and they're getting Michael Porter Jr. back as well. They do have a good team. They picked up Tavius Caldwell-Pope, and I think that 3 with the Nuggets and 3 with the Mavericks are interchangeable, and I think that the West is going to be very, very good this year. So, Nate, on to the next topic. Do you think that Giannis should have won the MVP in 2018?
Honestly, I feel like Giannis, obviously being the Greek freak, he deserves that nickname. He's a very dominant player on the court.
Absolutely.
Going from the paint, his field goal percentage is obviously off the charts compared to James Harden. James Harden usually shooting from the 3, and it's always not as accurate, but he obviously puts up more shots than Giannis. That's why he always has so much 3-point range. That's why he always has the most points average per game. He just puts up the most shots.
I think that James Harden should have won. I think that James Harden was definitely better in points. He averaged almost 10 points more than Giannis. He was better in assists and he was better in steals. And obviously, Giannis is going to be better in rebounds and in blocks because he does play more in the paint. But I do think that Harden should have won. I think that Harden brought more to his team. Obviously, Giannis finished first in the East, and that's why I think that he won it. And Harden, his Rockets finished fourth. But I don't think that should matter. I think that wherever place you come, as long as you're at least in the playoffs, that doesn't matter where you rank. I think that your stats should matter the most because it is the most valuable player.
Yeah.
And James Harden was a more of a value to his team than Giannis was. And I
don't know about that though, because I mean, Giannis, he's such a dominant player. I mean, the only other players on his team that probably could have done the same were Chris Middleton, but Chris Middleton is obviously a 3-point range shooter. He doesn't do much from the paint. Obviously, he does play in the paint, but as every other player does. James Harden even attempts to play in the paint, but obviously he's more dominant from the three. But I mean, obviously, I do think that the seed number does have something to play with in the MVP conversation that year, because I mean, it is a team game, obviously, but MVP does determine most valuable players. It's in the name. I mean, Giannis obviously brought his team to the first seed. I mean, he had some help along the way, but Giannis obviously did that. What did James Harden rank that year?
He ranked fourth. His team was fourth. But I do think that just because he was fourth, he should not have not won. He definitely should have won. His team was not as good, but James Harden, like I said, it's the most valuable player, and Harden was the better value on his team. He averaged 36 a night.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean,
he's the only player that year out of any player that averaged over 30 a night, and that just shows you the value that he brings. I think that he was a better slasher than Giannis. I think Giannis obviously in rebound, but I think James Harden is just a more pure scorer. He gets to his spots better. Giannis is just an inside player.
James Harden obviously manipulating the foul game also, yeah. He really breaks the rules to their limit. You know, he does the step back, the James Harden step back, iconic. I mean, honestly, Houston, I just noticing this now, but James Harden also having more minutes played per game this season. You know, I mean, I feel like Giannis, in the sense of being the more dominant player, did deserve it. But statistics wise, it does show that James Harden is. But I just feel like just Giannis overall, I feel like he's still a really, really good player. And I feel like he did deserve it that year. But I feel like James Harden is also in that conversation. I feel like it was a really close contest.
And I'm glad you brought up the free throw thing because you score how you score. And I think that free throws don't really matter because they are points added to the game. And I think that James Harden is just such an amazing free throw shooter that him getting to his spots, drawing the fouls, just works even better for him. And I think that's why it takes skill because Giannis could be doing the same thing, but he doesn't. And James Harden shot 88% from the free throw line that year. That's very efficient. So I do think that all of these little key factors play in, and I think that James Harden should have won MVP that year.
Yeah, obviously you persuaded me. I feel like James Harden obviously does deserve the title that year. I mean, yeah, just being statistically the better player and obviously bringing his team to the 4th seed, which is the best he could do considering the teammates he had, obviously. But I feel like I feel like we came to a resolution. I feel like the conversation obviously does come down to not us, but the people who pick these MVPs.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and obviously there's always going to be controversy. But I feel like Giannis did also deserve it in some sense. But I feel like James Harden obviously in that year did deserve it more.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I feel like that was a good end to the podcast. I just want to say thank you all for listening and have a good day.